When the new transfer arrived, no one paid much attention. That, in itself, was the first mistake. She stepped off the transport just after dawn, carrying a single-issued bag, dressed in standard uniform without decoration or visible distinction. No aides, no escort, no announcement. If not for the paperwork processed earlier that morning, she might have blended in entirely. Most people assumed she was junior. New arrivals usually were. She didn't look lost, though. That detail went unnoticed. At first, she paused briefly near the perimeter of the base, scanning the layout not with curiosity, but with quiet assessment. Her eyes moved in patterns, entry points, lines of sight, distances between structures. She wasn't sightseeing. She was orienting. Then she walked. Her pace was unhurried, but deliberate. She moved like someone who already knew where she was going, even if she had never been there before. The base had its routines, its internal hierarchies, its unspoken rules. New people were tested quickly, often subtly, sometimes not. By mid-morning, word had spread, "There's a new girl." The phrase carried weight. It always did. Some saw opportunity. Others saw inconvenience. A few saw something to correct. She reported in without issue, signed what needed signing, answered questions directly, without embellishment. She offered no personal details beyond what was required. When asked about her background, she summarized it in a sentence and redirected the conversation back to operational matters. That raised a few eyebrows. Junior personnel usually they wanted to be liked, or accepted, or understood. She didn't seem interested in any of that. Her first assignment was deliberately unremarkable. Administrative oversight, coordination review work, tasks that placed her near people but did not grant her authority over them. Someone was watching the base had its share of personalities. Officers who had been there long enough to feel ownership. Enlisted personnel who knew which rules bent and which ones broke. Informal leaders who exercised influence without rank. They noticed her quickly. She asked precise questions. Not many, but the right ones. She listened more than she spoke. And when she did speak, people found themselves listening without realizing why. There was no arrogance in her tone, no challenge. Just clarity. Still, assumptions persisted. "She's quiet," someone said. "She doesn't know how things work here yet," another added. A third smiled. "She will." The first test came sooner than expected. During a routine briefing, she corrected a data point, calmly, respectfully, without naming the officer who had misstated it. The room went still. Corrections like that were rarely appreciated, especially from someone new, especially from someone perceived as junior. The officer nodded stiffly and continued. Afterward, the tone changed. She began receiving instructions that were technically correct, but deliberately inconvenient. Last-minute tasking, conflicting priorities. Responsibilities without authority. Situations designed to provoke mistakes or frustration. She handled them all the same way. She completed the work. Quietly. Correctly. On time. No complaints. No visible stress. That unsettled people more than resistance ever would have. Someone escalated it. Formal complaint was filed. Vague. Procedural. Nothing that could be traced back to intent. Just enough to create friction. She was summoned. The officer conducting the review expected defensiveness or confusion or explanation. He got none. She answered each question with precision, provided documentation before it was requested, clarified timelines without prompting. When the officer tried to frame the issue as inexperience, she acknowledged the concern and demonstrated, point by point, why it did not apply. The meeting ended early. That should have been the end of it. Instead, it became personal. A small group decided she needed to be put in her place, not officially. Just enough to remind her where she stood. They did not know where she actually stood. The incident occurred during a late afternoon drill. She had been assigned observational duties again, a role with visibility but no command. She positioned herself where instructed and observed in silence. When a mistake was made, she noted it. When a safety issue arose, she stepped in, briefly, to correct it. That was all it took. "You're overstepping," Son said. She turned to face him. "Gone. Neutral. I'm preventing an injury," she replied. The tone was not defensive. It was factual. The confrontation drew attention. A few laughed. Others watched closely. "You're new here," the man continued. "You don't tell people how things run." She considered that for a moment. "Understood," she said, and stepped back. That response confused them. They expected argument, or resentment, or compliance laced with tension. Instead, she withdrew completely. The drill resumed. Later that evening, a report circulated. Another complaint. This one more direct. Allegations of insubordination, of disruption. This time, the response was immediate. She was ordered to report to Commander Review. When she arrived, the atmosphere was cold, formal, deliberately intimidating. She stood at attention and waited. The senior officer glanced at her file. This base operates on hierarchy, he said. Do you understand that? Yes, sir. Then you'll understand why your behavior is being questioned. She listened, did not interrupt, while did not defend herself. When he finished, he looked up. Your response. She met his gaze. My conduct aligns with standing orders, safety regulations, and mission objectives, she said. If you believe otherwise, I welcome clarification. There was no challenge in her voice. No edge. Just certainty. The officer frowned. He had expected uncertainty, or justification, or apology instead. He found himself questioning his own assumptions. He ended the meeting with a warning. Former recorded. She acknowledged it, and returned to her duties. By now whispers followed her. She's difficult. She thinks she's better than everyone. She won't last. They were wrong on all counts. The breaking point came during an inspection. The base commander was scheduled to arrive the following day. Preparations were underway. Tension was high. Mistakes were unacceptable. She had been assigned coordination duties again, supportive, again, visible. When a logistical oversight threatened to delay operations, she intervened. Directly this time, she issued instructions. They were correct. They were ignored. When she repeated them, they were challenged. Who put you in charge? Someone asked. She paused. No one, she said. I'm ensuring compliance. That answer was not well received. Voices rose. Accusations followed. You think you can just walk in here and run things? She did not respond immediately. Then she reached into her pocket and removed a badge. She placed it on the table. Between them, silence fell. The badge was unmistakable. Rank, Authority Command. Not Junior. Not New. Admiral. A base's Admiral. Assigned quietly and technically. Without announcement. The room froze. Faces drained of color. Words caught in throats. Someone stood abruptly. Another followed. Salutes snapped into place, sharp and immediate. She did not gloat. She did not raise her voice. She acknowledged the salutes and spoke calmly. At ease. They obeyed instantly. I did not conceal my rank, she continued. I simply did not advertise it. No one spoke. I wanted to see how this base functioned when it believed it was unobserved. The weight of that statement settled slowly. I saw competence, she said, and I saw complacency. She picked up the badge and returned it to her pocket. This ends now. The inspection the next day proceeded without issue. There were changes afterward. Quiet ones. Reassignments. Corrections. Standards reinforced. No public punishments. No spectacle. She remained calm, professional, unchanged. But the base was different. People listened more carefully. Assumptions were questioned. Authority was respected not because it demanded attention, but because it had earned it. Those who had tried to take her down learned something they would never forget. Power does not always arrive loudly. Sometimes it arrives early. Sometimes it waits, and sometimes it lets you reveal exactly who you are before reminding you who it has always been. If this story made you think twice about judging too quickly, it has served its purpose. To subscribe for more real military stories of leadership, discipline, and quiet authority, because the strongest command does not announce itself. It observes.